name is Stephanie Lozano. I am a dual enrollment student at Cerritos College. This is my third semester at Cerritos, and I'm currently taking Architecture 110, Introduction to Architecture with Professor Holly Van, where we learn about the pros and cons of architecture, how to get a job, the different exams, the different schools, etc. I'm undecided on my major, however, I would like to pursue the history route, and if I continue to pursue architecture, I would like to take historical architecture, where I would work on the building, restoring, and maintenance of historical sites and buildings. I'm going to be doing a brief history of architecture and a few of my favorite and least favorite eras in buildings. So to begin with, classical architecture. Classical refers to, most of the time, anything related to ancient Greece and Rome, and these types of buildings are very famous for their raw marble and their beautiful intricate designs, towns, all of that lovely stuff. After the fall of Rome, there was a lot of chaos going on through Europe as many different kingdoms and villages fought one another for local power. It was around this time that what we think of as a typical medieval castle began to appear, where unlike the beautiful intricate buildings of ancient Greece and Rome, these buildings were more so focused on defense and protection than any aesthetics. Here we have the Edinburgh Castle, which the Duke of Edinburgh, Queen Elizabeth's husband, is given the title after. As we can see, not nearly as pretty or as eccentrically decorated as the buildings of ancient Greece and Rome. After the late medieval ages came a new movement known as the Renaissance, which means rebirth. And although the Renaissance began as an artistic and an intellectual movement, it soon made its way into architecture. And Renaissance architecture was many things, but the main thing was that it reintroduced those Greco-Roman features, those arches, those pillars, the look of raw marble. It began to be a mix of Roman and this Christian Catholic idea of decoration. Here we have one of my favorite historical buildings, and actually my favorite historical building from the Renaissance era, the Cathedral Santa Maria del Fiore in Florence, but specifically the dome on top, El Duomo. It was designed by Botticelli, and the history behind it is that for a few decades prior, the cylindrical building below the dome, there was nothing on top, there was no roof or anything, and so anytime there was raining or typically bad weather, all of that would get inside. They wanted a dome on top, but they didn't really know how to build it. So Botticelli came in and he reintroduced the Roman style of dome building, and now we have a beautiful, aesthetically pleasing cathedral. A couple centuries later, we have the Baroque style of architecture, and it's similar to Renaissance, but just a tiny bit different. It was during the time that Baroque became popular. It was also the time where what we think of kings and queens as being these absolute huge monarchical figures began to appear. And in my opinion, Baroque style is the most regal and the most beautiful and the most visually stunning type of historical architecture. And my favorite building from this time, one of my favorite buildings overall, is the Palace of Versailles, commissioned by Louis XIV. And the history behind the Palace of Versailles was Louis XIV, who commissioned it, became king at a very young age. He was only 4 when his father died and he became king. And it was during these early years of his reign that there was the Fronde going on. And the Fronde were a series of noble uprisings against the king and his mother. So this kind of scarred Louis in a way, and he soon learned that he not only needed to take power away from the nobles, but that he also needed to keep them distracted. And so in the Palace of Versailles, he made not all the nobles, but nearly all the nobles lived there with him at once. And it was at this palace where what we think of as French culture is all the exclusive parties and gatherings and all these fancy foods and traditions, that is all in the Palace of Versailles. And again, the Palace of Versailles, to me at least, is the quintessential of monarchical powers, the quintessential of regal royalty. But thank you for listening to me ramble about historical buildings and being a total history nerd. I hope you enjoy your day, and remember to subscribe to Holly's channel. Bye!